Hi everyone, welcome to our ambassador session on Worldwide Wednesday. As we have found out from today, globalization isn't just about moving goods across borders, it's about people. We've heard that all week, haven't we? Ideas as well, sustainability, and of course it's on that worldwide scale. Logistics means rethinking how we power transport, how we reduce emissions, how we make supply chains greener and fairer for everyone. Cameron, who's joining us from Kuna and Nagel, who's working at the heart of global transformation. That is what logistics is, that heart of global transformation. Cutting edge tech, cutting carbon. Cameron's going to talk to us about his role in logistics and how we as a sector drive change across continents and why a sustainable future depends on it. So a big weight on your shoulders there, Cameron, on the shoulders of the sector.
Absolutely.
We are making change. Tell us a little bit about you.
Wow. Well, I'm hopefully here to share with everyone watching this as to how I can deliver change and how I inspire our colleagues to deliver change. So lovely to meet everyone watching this. My name's Cameron, and as Bethany said, I work for Kuna and Nagel. I've been with the organisation now coming up to 8 years. So I started straight out of university as a fresh-faced graduate, not really knowing what I wanted to do. After my university studies came to an end, and a friend of mine on the same course I was studying in the University of Leeds recommended a company called Kuna and Nagel, said that he'd read some really good things into what they do and how they connect different parts of the world really through their transportation services. And I thought, well, sounds quite interesting. You know, I like my transport. I like all things aeroplanes, all things boats, all things trucks. So, you know, let's take a look at what this company looks like. And yeah, the company really did their utmost to sell the global connectivity, the opportunities to travel as part of the role and be a part of the world and everything that we get to experience as a result. And 8 years later, the company is still doing a good job of convincing me to really pursue a career in logistics. So I work as part of our global sales training team, and that team really is responsible for delivering training to our colleagues in sales, ensuring then that they're equipped with the correct knowledge, the skills needed to go and win new business with our customers, to potentially bring in new customers to our organisation as well, and really ensure that our colleagues are upskilled in our key products, our key services, that then attract customers to want to work with us to deliver value to their organisation. So yeah, a lot of responsibility on my and our team's shoulders, make sure that our colleagues are upskilled to really continue helping customers worldwide to keep their goods moving all over the world.
And that's it, isn't it? I think if you look at logistics as we have been this week, at its very, very basic level, everyone is moving stuff. So if you've got stuff to move, how do you know who to choose? And it is those products and services which nowadays, we heard yesterday, Technology Tuesday, about all the different tech involved. Today, the sustainable aspect of it. They're the differentiators, aren't they? They're what help you to choose where it is that you want to pay your money as a customer. So got to sort of keep on top of all of that, I guess.
Yeah, 100% we do. We need to ensure that our colleagues are understanding the needs of the customers, but also understanding how those customers can continue moving those goods around the world seamlessly, so that us as consumers, as people, don't notice any difference. I mean, people listening to this call will probably remember a few years ago when all of a sudden KFC ran out of chicken, and we as a nation went crazy. We thought, oh my goodness me, there's no chicken in the stores. You know, I want to go and get my boneless banquet for one. And that's all because the supply chain, the logistics behind it hadn't functioned in the way that was expected, so that the places, the restaurants, had their chicken. You know, I've been in situations before where I've been sat on the airport and the captain's come on board the aeroplane and said, look, we can't take off because we're still waiting for a part to be delivered that's needed to fix something in the aircraft before we can go. And then your mind starts racing. Well, there's a whole operation that sits behind that, of where are they sourcing that part from, how is it being transported from where it needs to get to. You know, that's holding up 180 people wanting to get on holiday, and all of those considerations come into the forefront of your mind when we think about logistics. As you say, in essence, it's moving goods around the world and it's storing those goods, but everything that we touch has an element of logistics associated with it, and that's what really fuels my passion and hopefully fuels our colleagues' passion for it. The food you see on the shelves at supermarkets, the drinks you see in the restaurants when you go to those restaurants, the goods that you see to be delivered from Amazon when you're sat there in the evening ordering things from Amazon, all of that has a logistics element behind it, and without that we wouldn't have access to all the resources that we have to effectively live our lives. And that's what we're instilling in our colleagues, to be able to really sell to our customers. We will help keep their businesses moving and keep us as people ensuring that they can access everything that they just see as standard in their life.
Definitely, not least the fact that we live on an island.
Absolutely.
So, hugely important. Yes, absolutely. So you had said that you had heard about K&N when you were at uni. What were you studying at uni?
So I was studying aviation.
Very cool.
And I was studying aviation, had a fascination, and still do, for all matters aeroplanes, and really had started to take a look at university into the transportation of cargo via air, and really had started to look at, as part of a module, well, how is it that goods get from one side of the world to the other? What's the part that aviation plays in that? And that's what then brought me into understanding a little bit more about logistics, and in particular air freight, of how aviation's used to transport goods around the world. When then a friend of mine recommended Kuehne + Nagel, we started reading more into, well, it's not just aeroplanes, it's boats as well. You know, shipping containers all over the world full of all the goods that we're used to seeing on our shelves. There's trucks that are moving in and around the UK, in and out of Europe, as some example close to home. But if we were to just flood the country with goods, we'd have nowhere to store it. So the warehousing element then also started to come to mind. And all of that made me realise that just take for granted, really, everything that we have around us. And even at university, I was taking for granted the fact that all of the restaurants that we'd go to had food in, all of the libraries that we'd study at had books in the right place. And I thought, something is making this happen. What's the magic that's making this happen? And that's logistics.
Absolutely. We talked on Myth-Busting Monday about the fact that lots of people think to work in logistics, you are maybe a truck driver or perhaps a picker and packer in a warehouse. I imagine aviation has the same challenges, that perhaps people are either cabin crew or pilot.
Yes.
And of course, you know, we know that there's that whole world behind it. Was that a world, I mean, I guess not from what you said, but when you were at school or college, you were thinking aviation, but no clue of the sort of logistics part of aviation?
No, totally no clue whatsoever. I had absolutely no idea, if I think about aviation logistics, that there were a huge amount of complexities that went into planning the logistics of aviation, such as how do all of the spare parts for aircraft get to the right location for when the aircraft need to be maintained? How do all the spare parts get to each airport where those aircraft are positioned in case there is a spare part, like in my case, that was needed to be able to fit into an aircraft? Where are all those spare parts kept? How do they get from one location to the other as well? And if we think about an aircraft as a whole, well, how is that aircraft actually put together? How are the materials for that aircraft delivered to the place in which the aircraft are built to allow that aircraft to be built and brought together as well? So I didn't appreciate the logistics of it until I actually started to almost put those two industries together and think, my goodness me, there's a lot that goes into keeping the industry going, and that is the element of logistics. And for 3 of my 8 years at KN, I actually worked within our air freight department, and after that I transitioned into our aerospace department, working with some customers who are responsible for putting together maintenance programs for airlines, some airlines we worked with as well, and just seeing the amount of thought that has to go into just allowing us to go on holiday, for example, and allowing us to have access to the aircraft to go on holiday just blew my mind, and it still does. And I think that's what I love about logistics. Everything is so behind the scenes that you don't realize and see it until you start looking at it. And that, I think, is a really interesting place to be, seeing what happens behind the scenes and being able to influence that.
Definitely. And I'm going to take this opportunity to show the audience one of my favourite things about aviation, which is the Beluga aircraft. I know, isn't he marvellous? So yes, the plane that transports planes, and he does it with a smile on his face. He is an absolute beauty, the Beluga. So yes, my favourite thing, how do you transport a plane if it can't fly? You do it in the Beluga. So it's all those hidden bits about logistics that are absolutely fascinating. And one of my favourite things about the sector is we literally can't tell the young people watching today what their jobs are going to be like in 5 years' time, because we've not yet invented some of those roles. What do you think what's up and coming that's going to change the face of the sector?
Wow. Well, I mean, the role of artificial intelligence is a huge opportunity for the sector to really transform how we work as a sector, but how the sector can help support customers to be able to access their goods quicker, to be able to allow the supply chains globally to happen much quicker and much more reliably. So roles that I think may come up aren't your standard driver, picker or packer roles that you mentioned. But it could be example for drones that are managing deliveries from one location to another. It could well be robotics and people who are expected to manage the robotics of robots in warehouses, for example. In my role, for example, we're already speaking to our colleagues about how they can best use artificial intelligence. So it could be AI programmers, AI software engineers. It could be, in some cases, if I link back to aviation, how can we optimize the way in which our goods move via air using AI? So allowing people to come in and really look at that process as technology managers as well. And I think the beauty about logistics is there are so many roles that people don't appreciate as being logistics, whether that's working in optimizing processes, whether that's working in customers, whether that's working as part of sales, whether that's working as part of technology, IT. Any of those roles can happen within logistics as well as other sectors. I've never drove a truck. I've never picked a part from a warehouse. I've never packed a part, but I've crafted this 8-year career within logistics in some cases aerospace, sales, in air freight, and all of those roles have allowed me to understand logistics much more than perhaps I would have ever imagined I would have. So to any of you watching this call now, always think logistics isn't just driving, it isn't just warehousing, it's functioning that wider industry. And within that, we need people who are good with computers. We need people who are good with technology. We need people who can speak to people and are confident to do so in sales. People who are willing to really get into the depths of different systems, because you know what, those are the roles we're going to need to be able to make sure customers and you watching this can get goods quicker, more reliably, and can also have more access to technology, because that's what the sector needs.
Definitely. And I think it's the opposite end of the spectrum is, well, why would I look at logistics when AI will take all of our jobs? And of course, we know that isn't the case.
No, it will only enhance it. AI is going to enhance what we do in the sector. For every role that people believe AI will replace, we also need people who are able to manage that AI, who are able to program that AI, who are able to test it. My role in in learning and development, in training at the minute, some may say, well, you can replace that with AI because you can get someone who can come and write the training and deliver the training. But actually, I'm in a position now where I can use AI to speed up the process of creating that training, so I can deliver more, I can influence more colleagues, and that then allows me to be able to reach further in the organisation, and hopefully our people then to sell into the organisation more and grow the organisation. So AI is only going to enhance, and we need people who are excited about that in logistics. And if you're watching this and you're excited about AI, then please, we need you in logistics.
We do. There is plenty of room, as you said, for all people with all different interests.
Absolutely.
You've mentioned IT, you've mentioned data, you've mentioned that sort of customer-facing skills. What about mindsets? We've talked a little bit earlier about sometimes things go wrong. The Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal. KFC ran out of chicken. I have been told we're never more than 24 hours away from a national Jaffa cake shortage.
Oh, don't say that.
So things can go wrong. What sort of mindset do you think that you need to not only to kind of succeed in logistics, but to shape that future?
I think it's a proactive mindset. So you need to be willing to want to change, and you need to be willing to want to do it at a pace that suits you, not necessarily a pace that the industry suits, because the industry won't necessarily evolve as quickly as you want to evolve it. So you need to be someone who's proactive and want to drive that change, but you also really need a problem solving mindset. So if you're sat watching this and you love solving problems, you love having to come up with ideas as to how to get yourself out of a tricky situation or a problem that you know needs solving, those are the mindsets we love and need in logistics, because it never ever runs smoothly. As you said there, Bethany, there are always challenges that need to be overcome. And I think if that's the mindset you have, that you want to be very proactive, to want to do it yourself, and you want to solve problems, and you want to also, I think, work with others, then logistics is a great sector for you. And you need that mindset of wanting to work with others, because if we think about a standard move in logistics, there could be 6, 7, 8 different people or groups of people that need to be coordinated to really make that move happen seamlessly. So to link back to an example, when I worked in aerospace, we'd often need to move aircraft engines around the world for one of our key customers, and that would involve us having to speak with the customer, speak with airlines, speak with trucking agencies, speaking with loading agencies, not only locally but also then where that aircraft engine was going. So you may have like I say, 7, 8 different groups of people like so communicating with people, and you're wanting to have that organizational mindset, problem solving mindset, then that is fantastic, and that's what we need. And that's the sort of mindset that I would always encourage someone in logistics to really adopt. But equally, if you're sat listening to this now thinking, well, actually I prefer working alone and I think I'm quite skilled in my own space, then we also need people like that. Like I say, those who can really sit there and analyze data, those who can sit there and analyze processes and try to come up with ways to improve it. People with that want to improve mindset are critical, absolutely critical, because we need to continuously improve, not only as a company but as an industry. But that's what I love about logistics. Every personality type, every mindset of whether I work as an individual better or as a group better, there is a role for you in logistics. And I think that's the beauty of the industry. It's very flexible and adaptable to you as a person, and there's always a role then that can fit your strengths and your skill set.
Definitely, couldn't agree more. And we've heard lots of top tips. We've heard be creative, be a problem solver, think about how you work well as a team, think about if you've got your own strengths and perhaps how you can leverage those if you prefer to work individually. We've heard that global aspect as well. If you have a final top tip for our audience, if they're thinking of joining the sector, what would that be?
It's a $1 million question, isn't it? A $1 million question. I think the top tip to joining the sector for me would be take a look at what the sector is and all of the opportunities within before you really consider yourself as someone who may well be a future logistician, as a fancy term, someone who wants to work in logistics. Don't just have that perception that logistics is, as Bethany said, trucks, picking and packing. Take a look at Kuehne+Nagel, take a look at other companies such as Kuehne+Nagel, and just take a look at what they do and how they do it. And very soon you'll realise that there are so many opportunities that exist within that sector, within that company, from the different modes of transport to different departments such as IT, HR, process improvement, all the way down to finance, for example. There are so many different opportunities and ways to get involved in logistics, even if it doesn't seem logistics to you, that can really allow you to almost fall into an industry that I think has a huge career potential for whoever joins it, because there are so many different avenues you can go off to in logistics. So my top tip would be really research your company, your logistics industry as a whole, because there are a lot more opportunities than what immediately meets the eye. So take a look at companies, see what they do, see how they do it, read up on all the different departments, and take advantage of this week in the careers fair that no doubt you'll have an opportunity to attend, to just read up on a little bit more as to what each company does and what the roles are. Because like I say, it's not just a one size fits all, it's a 100 size fits everyone in logistics, which is a really exciting place to be.
It is. I love that. Be curious, go out there, find the information, and make sure that you're thinking about what might be the right part of the sector for you. And of course, if it isn't, you can move around, as you've demonstrated today.
Totally. You know, there are colleagues as part of KN and colleagues in the wider industry that I'm connected with who have been a part of logistics for pretty much their whole life now. And within that, they've been a part of roles in sales, they've been a part of roles in finance, they've even held management roles in the organisation. Some have worked in IT, some have worked in actual product development, some have worked in customer service, some have worked more on the operational data centres. So yeah, there are so many opportunities that exist. It's not just a one size fits all. So take a look at what each of these companies do and what they can offer, and no doubt that will then hopefully allow you to realise that in logistics it's not just trucks, planes and boats. There's a lot more that's needed to allow that service to flow as smoothly as we hope it does.
Absolutely. And we're back to our theme of today, that Worldwide Wednesday, thinking about all of that global interconnectivity and the tech and the sustainable logistics that goes behind it to make sure that we're delivering for many, many more years to come. Thank you so much, Cameron. That's been really enlightening. Plenty of food for thought for our audience, and it has been great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany.